Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Alvin. I'm the executive director for TAPA APAC, taking care of the Greater China portfolio. So, in case you don't know me, that's a small little introduction. So, with that, I also want to probably welcome Alvin Chan to also make his introduction before I move on to the questions.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Alvin. I'm from Singapore. I run two professional services firm, one that focus on security and control centers technologies, while the other one focus on risk advisory services. So we produce government-grade intelligence products for enterprises. That's a little bit about me. Thank you.
Thank you, Alvin. So I guess you guys heard the presentation from Yongshu. Unfortunately, he has cut it short. Please get hold of him if you can later and engage with him. And Professor Goh as well from NUS. So without further ado, let me move on to the first question. So I think we talked about a lot about AI, machine learning, and actually Prof also answer a question from Samshir with regards to machine learning. So what role can AI and machine learning play in identifying and mitigating cyber risk within the supply chain? So maybe Prof, you want to take that first?
Okay, sure. Thanks. I think we've already covered quite a fair bit. So I think a lot of this is training the machines, right, as I mentioned, and being able to detect anomalies. So the first thing is, can we detect anomalies, right? Because can we replicate what we do in real life physically, but on a much bigger scale? Because we can industrialize it, we can do it on a much bigger scale, right? So in Chinese we call it 工业化. Right? Can we do it on a bigger scale? And I think that's what AI is able to do. Of course, we also talk about some of the challenges already, right? Behind scaling up. Okay, but in general, if AI is able to do that job well, then potentially it can scale up and make us a lot more efficient in that fraud detection.
So we tend to take everything bite size and then we try to scale it. So I think it's also going to be some of the questions next. So Yongshu, maybe you could help me out on this question as well.
Yeah, sure. So AI is a big part of Microsoft's business, right? So, and cybersecurity is too. And one of the biggest areas that I can see with AI is, and machine learning, is with cybersecurity detections and monitoring. So in large corporations with a good information security group, you have a team that does detections. They look for anomalies, they look for malware. But usually, these detections happen too late. It's usually after a breach has occurred, and they will pull logs to see who came in, who went ahead and downloaded what, who went ahead and deleted what. That's too late. With AI, with the ability to do so much more than human beings, the hope is with AI, they can instead of monitoring reactively, they can monitor proactively. Let's say they're looking at everybody that signs into their network, all of their employee accounts. So this employee normally signs in from Shanghai. Now all of a sudden, this person is now signing in from Russia. Why? So AI has the ability to do that and at scale, not just reactively.
Yeah, so it's more on the proactive approach that we are trying to achieve, right, with AI and machine learning. But I think we're still in like early stages, and it's just gonna keep going.
That's correct.
Right. So on the next question, I think a lot of you all will be very interested. So some of the key considerations for organizations when we try to integrate technology solutions into their supply chain, particularly we talk about scalability and we talk about interoperability, right? So maybe Alvin could help me out.
Yes. So people tend to associate technology with digital systems, but basically, when you're talking about a system to be scalable and to be able to interoperate, you're talking about two parts. One, the people, the processes, and then the other part is technology. So in terms of, so I'll share a context where we implemented a augmented reality project for our client. Basically, we were using it for maintenance of critical systems, but the problem statement that they had, because manpower is a very limited resources in Singapore, and it's about reducing costs. And what we did was, instead of getting really skilled technicians going to do level 1 kind of rectification, we decided to say, hey, perhaps get the level 1 guys to do augmented reality, using augmented reality glasses to do the first level of troubleshooting, and subsequently getting the control rooms to be able to provide expert advice to that. So when we look at that, we started on a project. We started to use the framework of people process technology, and in terms of people, I think it's important to get buy-in. I think it's also important to look at what was before and after in terms of performance matrix, so that you can do your measurement of success and effectiveness. We look at experience in terms of training. People are very hesitant of having glasses. We have to convince them that, of course, because of the technology, it will be slightly heavy. You need to have certain rest period. So there's a lot of buy-in, there's a lot of interview, there's a lot of soft selling. And with that, we also have a feedback cycle. We call this the action learning process. And before the activity itself, during the activity, and after the activity. With that, then you can start to look at important stuff like business process reengineering, what was done before, what was done, what is going to be implemented with the new introduction of a system. And with that, there are a lot of data that, for example, catalog of parts, they are very unstructured, and we need to structure this data so that all this information can be piped back, and we can, in a longer term, look at the analysis. And from the technology portion, doing pilot trials, doing phase implementation, that was useful from our perspective. So with that, then you are able to first interoperate between different classes of stakeholders. Then you will be able to scale the system to other sites. Yeah,
very true, because
that was what we did.
Yeah, very true, because like people is actually very important in technology solutions, right? We always think about the digitization part of the business. We always think about the technology solutions, but we forget that people is the one that's going to make it work, and interoperability is something that's important. People is an integral part of it. So, Prof, maybe you can add on to some of the parts on that question as well.
Okay, sure. So I think so on the question of interoperability, right? First of all, we need standards. So I think everybody knows that we need to have standards in order to have systems be able to talk to each other. I think first of all, the challenge is, among companies, there's a tendency to want to own the standard, because whoever owns the standard obviously gets to set the rules and therefore be able to, sort of dominate the market, right? And this is what we learned in the tech world, right, in the last 20 years, which is that setting the rules helps us to grow much bigger. So that's one, right? One constraint. The second thing, of course, is that, that how do we get around this, right? So one way, of course, is that we have a system integration, and that's why there's a system integration industry, right, which helps different systems to link to each other using APIs, so that we are able to share information, even though we are on different software, even though we are on different standards. So we need to translate that software, right, from one system to another system. So that has worked quite well, right? And in the last, whatever number of years, we have been able to do that in order to ensure that systems operate. Of course, the other way around it is, can we create standards, right, among industry? So can we have an industry type standard where an industry that's neutral, an industry body that's neutral, or an industry grouping of many companies come together to create a neutral standard that everybody can tap in? So obviously TAPA is one standard, right? So Alvin is laughing. I wasn't trying to sell TAPA, right? But TAPA is one such standard, right? That is an industry standard. Okay, and then of course, if you look at banking, a SWIFT network, right? Where you have banks coming together to interoperate. So nobody owns it, but everybody benefits. And I think that's probably a way to go, right? In terms of having industry bodies come together, in terms of having governments come together, and regional governments come together.
Yeah, and that's true, because I think when we talk about the industry portion, right, I couldn't help myself but to laugh, because I think it's very timely, because we're going to have our cybersecurity standards that's going to be launching next quarter, probably in September this year. So I think you guys keep a lookout for it. I think move on to the last question. Time's a bit tight. I might want to my phone. Oh, the question's there actually. So, so how can organizations adapt their cybersecurity strategies to address emerging threats in the supply chain? I think we've talked a lot about the threats Yongshu has explained a whole lot about it. I think it sounds pretty scary, honestly. So maybe you want to elaborate how we can actually adapt our cybersecurity strategies to try to address some of these issues.
Well, I'm glad the message came through then that you were scared. So it's critical right now in this day and age. If you don't have an IT person that understands security, or you don't have a information security organization if you're a larger company, that you have to either get somebody in your organization to implement these controls that I talked about, or hire a outside firm to come in and help you strengthen yourself to protect yourself against all of these threats. It's absolutely critical in this day and age.
Thank you. So get someone, remember. Alvin, any last words to add for this question?
My personal thoughts about this, I won't go into the domain of deep cyber security, but behind every threat, whether it's physical or cyber threats, there's always nefarious organizations and individuals. So those are important, and the role or work that we do is in terms of the risk intelligence and advisory portion is to say, for example, in the context of vendor management, third-party vendor vetting, it's important to understand the intention of this organization and individuals. So in terms of the strategy or the process that we look at, for example, the intelligence cycle, you plan, you direct, you process, analyze, and you disseminate information. So when we plan, we are very clear on determine what are the threats, trying to find out what is the intention. Then we prioritize our collection effort, and we develop indicators for our collectors. And sources of information are available using multiple tools. You could get it from open source, from the open web, from deep web and dark web. You could even get it from human sources, or even from social media itself. When social media is more from the perspective of sentiment analysis. With that as a collection effort, then you'll be able to look at all these information and how do you analyze it. And when you analyze it, I always tell my analysts, it is important to ask yourself, so what? When we get this information, so what's the impact to the organization, what's the impact to the client? And what are what-if scenarios, what are the different scenarios, what are the hypotheses, and what are the possibilities of this happening? And then the what now is basically how can this analysis or this probability of this thing happening affect the organization and provide the recommendation to the affected organization. Those are our experience.
Yeah, very true. I think in summary, I think there is, first thing we need to have is data, right? We need to start collecting data, and then before we can even start on with the analysis, because without data we probably can't do much. And with the right data, with the right analysis, then we can actually do some proactive approach towards all the scary malware that I've seen on the screen just now. So thank you very much for your sharing, and thank you all for being such good audience, being very quiet and very attentive. So all right, thank you.